Hi guys, hiya. Welcome to Petals on the Paving Slabs. If you're new to the channel, thanks for coming and having a look, see what all the fuss is around. And if you're trying to work out what all the fuss is about, it's a UK based gardening channel, but we'd like to think with a little bit of global appeal. I get some wonderful comments from amazing subscribers in countries like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, pretty much most of the English speaking countries in the world. There's a few exceptions, although I do wonder how people in Australia and America understand this accent sometimes. It just must be like a blah, 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 blah. So anyhow, wherever you are, welcome. This video is about a flower show I went to back in July, and a guest speaker at the flower show was a man called Adam Frost. Some of you might know him from the television work that he does. He's one of these TV gardeners. He's on programs like Gardener's World on the BBC. And he was talking at one of the events, and I had my trusty notebook and pen with me, that I always keep around with me close to hand. It's mainly for my gardening ideas. So I whipped it out as he was talking, and I wrote down some of the things he was saying. Hello there, Biblical. It is Aguero. Yes, Biblical. That book there is Aguero. So I'm probably giving it away now. Man City fan. And that's the point where loads of people start watching. Right, back to the gardening. So as he was talking, Adam Frost, I was writing down some of the things he said. I've got 4 main points here. I've whittled it down. I actually wrote down loads of stuff that he said. Tonight, we're just going to look at 4 main points. Hello there, Urban Landscaper. Good to have you with us. So, the first point, in no particular order, that I'm going to talk about, but one of the things Adam Frost said was the 4 key aspects of design for him, of garden design, when he's designing a new garden space is: number 1, space; number 2, people; number 3, plants; number 4, place. Now, I'm going to ask you first, what do those 4 things mean to you? And when I start going on, and I'll try and put it into some kind of way of explaining what they mean to me, you guys can be writing your comments. So I'll recap. He says the 4 main elements of garden design are space, people, plants, and place. Okay, so to me, this is what I think he means. Oh, are you a City fan as well, Biblical? Hello there, Nick's allotment. Good to see you. Right. There's not very often more than 2 City fans get together, really, is it? Anyhow, then. Right, so to me, what these 4 aspects mean: space, people, plants, place, are space. You look at the borders, the perimeter of the amount of area you've got to work in. Now, a lot of us in the UK, I say a lot, not everybody, but quite a few, we have like a rectangular, long, thin strip of a garden that goes away from the back of the house. What's it like in America, say, or Canada? I mean, because in my head, in Canada, you all live on mountainsides, surrounded by pine trees, with bears coming and sniffing around your flower pots. Please correct me if I'm wrong. What's your average kind of garden in countries like Canada and America as well? See, another thing you'll need to correct me on, in Australia, I've got it in my not very well travelled head that in Australia you don't really have gardens because the kangaroos eat all your plants. So tell me what it's like for you gardening in Australia. So that's your space, right? The actual area of ground that you're going to fill with whatever turns out to be called your garden. The people, try and match what's in that space, the first point, space, to the second point, people. There's no point having a crazy golf course in a garden if none of the people that live there are going to be using that garden play golf. So me, for example, I am not a golfist. I wouldn't see any sense in like sculptured lawns with little what them holes called that the ball rolls into. I have no idea. Wouldn't do anything for me. If it was up to me, I'd have barely any lawn at all. In fact, the garden I've got now, the clue is in the title of the channel, Petals on the Paving Slabs. No lawn, no grass. It's all concrete paving slabs with a bit of tarmac down one side. So what do the people going to be using that garden want from that space? Oh, Ruby's left a comment. Hey, Deputy Head Gardener, Ruby's in the house. What? Good to see you, Rubes. And our Claire as well, Mrs. Petals. All right. Best be on my best behaviour then. Okay. So the third point he made was plants. Out of these 4 design aspects that he always tries to consider when making a new garden, the third one was plants. Now, I've got to be honest, if these are in any kind of order, I'd have plants first. Forget about the space. Fill the flipping thing. Fill the space with plants. That's a personal thing of mine. What are your guys' thoughts on the fact he's got plants as number 3? Just seems a little bit unusual to me to put plants over people. I mean, to me, a garden, he's all about the plants. And then me as a person, that's what I want. I want the plants, whatever those plants may be. And I fit into those plants, if that makes sense. And the 4th point he made was place. Now, I've got to be honest, I'm not quite sure what to make of the meaning of place. So somebody else is saying in the comments, plants should be first. Well, I think so too. Now, by place, does he mean connected to the space? So that will be something that comes in at the start of the design process. Or does he mean what the place is like once you've considered the space, the people and the plants that you're going to be putting into that garden area? What do you guys think? So they were Adam Frost's 4 main elements of garden design, which he says he always tries to consider. Just to recap, they are space, people, plants, and place. So moving on to the next point that I wrote down. I put this in speech marks. I did, yeah. This because he said these exact words. He put, in all of us is a garden. And when he said that, I had a bit of a moment. I was sitting in a massive tent full of all these like-minded people, right? And then I heard him say those words, and I wanted to stand up and give him an hallelujah and go, I hear you, brother. Because I just, like some kind of evangelical, religious, directly being communicated to by God in very self. That's how it felt to me, because this whole channel, Petals on the Paving Slabs, was me saying, right, look where I live. Look what I've got that's so-called garden. It's concrete. Yet, because I want a garden, I am making a garden on those paving slabs. Yeah. So I wanted to show people that in every single one of you, you can grow something somewhere, no matter what that where is like. And when he said, in all of us is a garden, that's exactly what I'm trying to say with this whole YouTube channel. That's my whole message, is that in all of us is a garden. Just honestly, it was amazing when he said that. I mean, so my concrete backyard, we do also have an allotment plot, but we only took that on last year. For years before that, I've been gardening on concrete, using things like tyres, old used tyres of cars. I stack them up, grow potatoes in them. I got carrots out of dustbins. I once put a squash plant in an old toilet, and I got a bit told off by my wife for doing that. I've got to say, the toilet was clean. I'm not an animal, right? But I just stuck this toilet in the middle of the concrete backyard with a squash plant growing out of it. In a different setting, that would have won an art prize, some kind of modern art prize, the Turner Prize, something like that. I just got aggro off our Claire. This is where loads of you stick up for Claire and say that Claire was right to give me aggro for that. But my point is, I'd made a garden out of an old unconnected, disused, cracked toilet standing on concrete paving slabs. In all of us is a garden. What does that mean to you? When Adam Frost says those words, in all of us is a garden. What does that mean to you? Leave a comment, let me know. So who have we got in the house? I've said hello to Nick and Biblical. Little Ruby, Aunt Claire. Oh, Hugh's nursery. Hello there, Hugh. You think start with plants first as well. Me too. Great minds think alike. No matter how well they're placed, and then change everything all the time. This is what Hugh says. I agree with that, Hugh. Best to start with some plants for quick impact and see more of what you like. Yes, because then that's making it about you. It's your place. It's what you like. Don't just do something for the sake of doing it. It's got to be what you want it to be. Spot on, Hugh. I like that. And Hugh goes on to say, and learn from what the seasons show you. Now, I once heard somebody say, when you move to a new house that has an existing garden, don't touch it for a year. Watch it for at least a year. See what it looks like in summer, spring, autumn, winter, or fall, if you're from a country that calls it fall. See where the sun starts in the morning. See where it goes to bed at night. See where the wind comes from, all the rest of it. You just sit back for your first year in the new garden and do nothing. I wish I'd have taken that advice about when we got the allotment plot, because it'd only be this year that I'd actually started doing some graft. But to be fair, when we got the allotment plot last year, it needed a hell of a lot of work doing to it. The weeds were taller than me. I couldn't have sat back for a year and just watched the plot, because it just wouldn't have happened. Someone would have come up to me and go, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm observing." "No, you're not, son. Get off." So yeah, if it works for you, if you can do that, leave it for a year. All right, Josh, how's it going? Yeah, Josh, good to see you. God, the TV must be really bad if you're watching this, Josh. It's nice to have you here, mate. So that was Adam Frost's second point. He said, in all of us is a garden. What do you think about that? Leave a comment, let me know. So his third point, we've only got 2 left, guys, don't worry. Won't keep you for too much longer. His third point was, get your hands in the soil. It'll tell you so much. Now, to me, that means 2 different things. You can take that 2 ways. Sometimes when I think about what he said there, I think it means you learn about your actual soil, so you can feel its consistency. You can feel if there's sand in it, if it's sharp sand, soft sand. You feel if it's clay, if it's squishy, do that thing where you make a sausage and if it holds its shape, you've got clay soil. You can feel the temperature in spring when you're waiting to plant out. So just, practical, technical aspects of gardening. It will tell you that by getting your hands in your soil. The second thing it tells me, when I'm a bit more blue sky thinking and I've got using my imagination a bit more, is it tells you something about yourself, your relationship to gardening and your soil, which your very garden and your plants survive on. Is your soil. It's one of the most important parts of a garden is a good, healthy, full of all kinds of life form soil that's been well fed by you taking the trouble to make your own compost. Okay, so it tells by getting your hands in the soil. It's a little bit metaphorical, but it's telling you something about your relationship to your garden and your soil and how you feel about it. Now, this is not a product placement. I'm not getting paid or asked to do this. I'm going to show you a book now, purely because I think this book is good and I can recommend it to you guys. So it's Monty Don, Down to Earth, talking about getting your hands in the soil. I've got a little bookmark in here, which you'll see. One of my bookmarks. I've got many bookmarks because I've always got lots of different books on the go. It's me and Deputy Head Gardener Ruby. Oh, bless. Hey, Rubes. Right, so that's my bookmark. So on that page, he's talking about this is Monty Don now, but it's related to what Adam Frost said about getting your hands in the soil because it'll tell you so much. So in his book, Down to Earth, Monty Don, he's talking about he was around about the age of 17 when he realised that gardening came to him. He started to get good at it. He started to be able to grow vegetables quite successfully. He said, one day in early spring, I was preparing the ground for sowing carrots when I was filled with an ecstatic sense of being exactly where I wanted to be. I've had that feeling. Have any of you had that feeling? You're standing in your garden, doing a gardening job, and you just feel that there is nowhere else you would rather be at that precise moment in time. Does anyone else get that same feeling? So I'll carry on. Desiring nothing but this completely fulfilled moment. That night, I dreamt that my hands grew deep down into the chalky loam and took root. I awoke refreshed and knowing absolutely that all my future sustenance and fulfillment must be rooted in the soil. So that's Monty Don rather more articulately explaining what I was trying to explain about one of the meanings I get from Adam Frost saying to put your hands in your soil, it'll tell you so much. It's telling you something about yourself and your relationship to your soil in your garden and your garden as well. Monty Don's explained that brilliantly. I think actually he's a bit of a writer, isn't he? I'm sure he's written other kinds of books as well. He's got away with words, hasn't he? So what does that mean to you guys? Right, quick little look at the comments. Naughty word there, Claire. Tut, tut, tut. No, not many of us would have the patience to wait a year, would we, Hugh? I certainly wouldn't. 3,000%. I just cleared my section at a time and I watched the weather and what the plot did. There is no way I would wait a year to plant. Fair enough. I'm with you on that one. In an ideal world, I'd like to. If I won the lottery and bought an house, just a second house, just because I like the garden it had, I'd do that. But I feed my family out of my garden and the allotment plot. I haven't got a year to wait just watching to see where the sun rises and where it goes to bed at night, like most of us haven't. Urban Landscaper, what a great book that is. It's a good book, isn't it? John Hilton, no, that is not a United shirt. Because I'm a trendy lad, me, right? I wouldn't wear filth. It's not a United top. Don't wind me up, right? What page is that, biblical? The Monty Don quote is right at the start, the introduction. In my book, it's on page 7. Okay, right, so let's move on. Last point that I wrote down from the Chorley Flower Show when I dragged my wife and actually I don't think Olivia was with us on that day. She'd have been doing something far more socially acceptable for the 13-year-old girl than being dragged by the dad around the flower show. I'm not sure where she was. She was probably with her friends dancing or something. So it was myself, Claire, and Deputy Head Gardener Ruby. We all went into this tent. And the last thing I wrote down that Adam Frost said was going back to design ideas now, when you're designing a garden, specifically about its layout. I quite like this. I like this a lot. He's put, have movement in your garden layout. Movement, this is where it gets a bit, whoa. Movement in the form of full stops and commas. Oh, mic drop. Mind blown. Right. Then he went on to explain it, and I'm really glad he did, because I didn't have a clue what was happening at that point. I seriously didn't have a clue. Right. So I'm really glad, Adam Frost, thank you, that you went on to explain this. He went on to explain it by the overall movement comes from the way your paths are shaped, the directions your path going, the way they make you, they draw you along them, they make you want to go along the path. Along those paths, full stops, right? A big stop at an area designed to make you stop and look at something. So it could be like a really big focal point. It could be a dead end. It could be an enormous scenic landscape, a borrowed landscape, perhaps, a neighbouring field, or the house behind you. They've got some massive trees. You know, it could be like you're brought to a place where you're forced to stop and take in what it is that you're seeing. And the commas, the way he described the commas, were a quick pause, a smaller focal point. So perhaps on the bend of a path, just as a path before it goes around the corner, put a small focal point there. It could be a really attractive shrub. It could be an ornament. It could be something totally ridiculous, like what I mentioned before when I once put a squash plant in a toilet. If it feels good, do it. That's what I say. Okay. So I really like that, full stops and commas, because like if you think we find full stops and commas when we're reading, don't we? Put my notes down. And when you're reading, you're moving along with that story. Your eyes are actually moving, but you're also being carried along by whatever it is you're reading. The full stops and commas kind of break that movement up. So rather than just going end, it's juttery, it's jittering, juddering. You're stopping along the way through your garden to actually take in what your garden contains. And I just thought that was, the way he put it was just brilliant. I thought, you know what, if I had teachers that spoke like that when I was at school, I'd be a lot cleverer now than I am. Because I love the way he put it. So let's have a quick look at the comments. You saw me standing alone. You did, Ruby. Yes, although not tonight. We're doing quite well. We've got quite a few guests joining us. Hello to everybody. Right. It's where your eye goes and what stops you, 3000% said that. Yes, absolutely right. The full stops and commas, it's where your eyes go and what stops you. Doesn't all just have to be about moving along the path. Perhaps I've been slightly misleading with that. That's the way I understood it, but I've seen it from your viewpoint. Now I've read your comment, and I agree again with what you're saying. So you might not have to actually have physical movement, yourself moving around the garden. You could be stood in one place and you just rotate on your heel. And in what your eyes take in 360 degrees around you, there could be hundreds of full stops and commas. So I think that's what you mean. Or that's certainly what it means to me, what you've put there, 3000%. So I like that. Another little thing about the movement, put movement into a garden, is we all know the tricks about, you know, the long, steeper, gigantic, the giant oak grass and stuff, because it sways in the wind, and, you know, long, gorgeous stems of verbena, the word starting with B, which I always struggle to pronounce, but Bonense-iranis, Bonseneniranis, Verbena Bonense-iranis, that one. Yeah, it's all movement. So there's movement in many different forms. So they are the 4 points I wanted to discuss. They were all things that TV gardener Adam Frost said at the Chelsea Flower Show back in wrong. I just said Chelsea, didn't I? Wrong, so wrong. I won't go to that there London town. Chorley in Lancashire. Chorley Flower Show. Because that's where it's at, Lancashire. What Lancashire does today, London does tomorrow, right? So at the Chorley Flower Show in July, Adam Frost, TV's very own Adam Frost. I got a selfie with him, by the way. And I'm still made up now, and it was a couple of months ago now. Anyhow, he said the 4 things, which were his 4 main elements for garden design are space, people, plants, and place. If you just joined this live update video, I'll be keeping it on once I've no longer going live. You'll be able to watch it after the event, so to speak. If you've only just joined us, I'm looking at 4 things that Adam Frost said. We've just been discussing them, and people are joining in on the comments, and I've had some fantastic comments as well tonight. Thank you, guys. So his 4 main design elements for a garden are space, people, plants, and place. The second point that we discussed was he said, in all of us is a garden. I hear you, brother. Right. The third point we looked at was another thing he said. He said, get your hands in the soil. It'll tell you so much. Means a couple of different things to me. That, what does that mean to you? And the last point, which we've just covered, is to have movement in your garden, and the way your garden's laid out, movement in the form of full stops and commas. And if that doesn't make sense, you're going to have to rewatch the video where I try and explain it. Right, so the garden is my church, garden is my religion. I'm with you. Oh, that is biblical. I am with you. I'm not sure if Adam Frost has got a YouTube channel. I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I've only stalked him a little bit because I am a bit of a fanboy about him. And secretly, right, I hope that he takes over when Monty Don decides to pack in Gardener's World. I hope Adam Frost takes over. I just think he's ace. And, right, he's dead tall. So he's going to make some great little segments on like how to pick fruit out of trees and stuff like that. And so I love Adam Frost. He's brilliant. Right. Thank you so much for watching. Right. If you're new to this and I haven't done your head in that much, how's about clicking on the subscribe button? And hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Take care, guys. Right. Now is that awkward pause where I look around to where do you end? Here we go. Right. And then I get a funny face as it freezes. So funny face now. End screw. Oh, hang on. Are you sure you want to end? Yeah.